Welcome to the 2021 Apex Social Tax webinar, hosted by JLK Rosenberger. Before we get started, we want to invite you to the Apex Social Congress of 2021, a global education celebration. This event is designed for you. And please spread the word to family and friends if you think they might be interested. We will bring you the most inspiring personalities from the health and social sector, and we'll tell you about some extraordinary and international career paths. Learn about the new Apex Career Center, where we are excited to help you with your resume, interview skills, and career development. Hear about further education opportunities from featured schools and universities, and network with other like-minded professionals. We will also be announcing the winners of the Care Professional and Host Family of the Year Awards. We are excited for you to join us on Saturday, March 13th at 4 p.m. German time. Please go to apex-social.org/GEC 2021 to learn more and secure your free ticket. And now for the webinar.
All righty, good. So, as a valued care professional with Apex Social, we are here to support you at all times while on the program and beyond. Apex is pleased to host our tax webinar this evening featuring Tim Johnson, who's a certified public accountant with JLK Rosenberger. Tim is an experienced CPA. He's a trusted partner with Apex, and most importantly, he's passionate about helping all of you with your taxes. So Tim, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Diane. I'm pleased to be here again. There might be some that have been on the call before, seen the recording before, or has maybe seen this live last year if you've were around then. And I understand we have some folks that just arrived in the U.S. on the call also. So that's great, and hopefully we can provide some information that is helpful to everyone this evening, and provide some clarity around our U.S. taxes as it relates to your kind of unique profession. So we're going to get started here, and just so you know, I'm in my office, and my IT setup is that my camera is here, but my monitor is kind of over here. So if you see me looking aside, it's not because I'm not trying to look at you, but I'm looking at my screen at the same time. So all right. So just like any good professional presentation, we always have our disclaimers, which essentially says that we're not going to go over everyone's unique situation, and your situation is your own. And we're trying to provide general advice here, not specific advice, but hoping that it's still going to be useful to everyone. And the reason why Apex is doing this is because they're not in a position to be able to provide any type of tax advice, and so that's why they've asked of me to come in and do some of that. And so even if you're getting some information from others at Apex, that's again just general in nature and not specific to your situation at all. So so just in general, our tax guidelines here in the U.S. It's important to understand there's even though this has been I think our third year now with these kind of our new rules here in the U.S. And so this a lot of the folks maybe on the call don't even know our old rules, but which is fine. That's probably a good thing. But the biggest change that kind of happened from a few years ago that you might have talked to some folks about was that we no longer have an exemption, meaning that you don't have X amount of dollars, the first $6,000 that you make, you don't have to worry about. That no longer exists for folks that are in your profession, and so every dollar earned is going to be subject to federal income tax because you're considered by your visa status as a non-resident alien here in the U.S. And then another big thing that you may have been hearing about a lot in the news, on the internet, is these stimulus rebate payments. So economic stimulus rebate checks, $1,200 here, $600 there, and those types of numbers. But those rebate checks are only for full U.S. residents and not for non-resident alien filers, which again, by your kind of unique status here in the United States, you're considered to be a non-resident alien. And so you're even though you're providing a needed and necessary resource to all the families and kids that you're helping, unfortunately, it's not you're not going to be eligible for those stimulus rebate checks for the most part. And it's important to, let's see, might have a double up there, but so it's important to understand that your stipend that you get, that's your income here in the United States, and so that stipend is going to be taxable in the U.S. Every dollar of it. So if you have $1,000 of stipend income, you have $1,000 of taxable income. We don't have an exemption any longer. And you're generally here, as I said, as a non-resident alien. Even if you were here on a different status, you're going to still be that non-resident alien for tax purposes for the most part. And this is important because you're not subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes on your au pair wages, on your stipend amount, as opposed to traditional employment relationships, which are subject to Social Security and Medicare payroll taxes. So essentially your income will be subject to income tax, but not payroll taxes. And another change here, unlike in prior years, there's no longer a 1040 NR-EZ form. So the EZ kind of meant for easy. So there's no longer this easy form out there. So everyone is going to be utilizing the full form 1040 NR. It's a little bit longer, okay, which really just means that there's going to be lines that you just don't use, and there's quite a few lines that you don't use. So I'm going to kind of try to simplify it for you a little bit. But there's also, and I highly recommend everyone doing this, to utilize tax preparation software on the internet that will help you prepare your own tax return, because it is a little daunting. I mean, I deal with taxes every single day, whereas I know that most folks on this call have maybe dealt with U.S. taxes maybe 1 year, and a lot of you, this is your first year, and so it's very daunting, and I understand that. And so utilize those resources that are out there online. One of the vendors out there that knows your type of situation is Sprint Tax. Okay, and I think that Diane has put this referral code out there. It's they've put out a $10 discount code, so that's off of their retail price online, and they specialize in non-resident income tax filings. And so you can see the link here. I don't anticipate anyone would write that down real quick. And I see Diane's unmuted herself, and so did you guys send that out to the group already, Diane?
Yeah, we've sent it via email, and if anyone missed it, they can contact me, and we'll actually get it out again with the recording of this webinar. So
there you go, perfect. And so, I mean, we utilize software here at our firm. We don't anticipate anyone doing this stuff by hand, and so I would suggest logging into Sprint Tax, use that discount code to be able to help yourself out a little bit, make things a little bit easier. And oh, I'm sorry. Here's the discount code again. I don't anticipate anyone write this down real quick, but it's there for y'all. And so just a couple basics. April 15th is our tax day here in the United States. We file on a calendar year, meaning that we report our income from December 1st through January 1st through December 31st, so the calendar year, and we have to report that by April 15th. And so as my wife says, come beginning of April, I'm pretty much non-existent around the house because those last 2 weeks are nonstop for us. And so, but we do recommend filing early. The IRS just opened up accepting tax returns this last weekend, and so and which is kind of late for the IRS to start, but that's just how it happened with all the virus type stuff and the changes that have been going on. But file early, but file by April 15th. If you are not able to file by April 15th, you can file for an extension, and that's with a form 7004. And again, with Sprint Tax, you'll be able to I think they will be able to help you with that. And so you file that extension by April 15th. But unfortunately, it is just an extension only to file and not to pay. So if you file the extension, which you need to, even if you don't pay, but if you don't pay how much you think you owe, then they're going to charge you a little bit of interest and some penalties on that payment, because they're expecting their payment by April 15th, even though you can extend until October 15th of this year. So try your best to get everything done as early as possible. And if you earned income in more than one calendar year, remember, even if it's over a 12-month period, like you were only here for 12 months, but it crosses calendar years, you have to file a tax return for each of those years. So again, we utilize a calendar year system here in the United States. And everyone always kind of asks, well, how much should I be saving out of my stipend amounts? And typically, I say if you set aside around 10 to 15%, you should be okay. Meaning that if you're getting paid $200 and some odd dollars, if you set aside $20 a week, it should add up to about what you owe, plus or minus 15%. A little bit safer, but even 10, you're going to get pretty darn close. And let's see, and we're going to be mainly talking about federal income tax, to the United States, but there also is state income tax that we're not going to really cover a whole lot, just because we have 50 states in the U.S. and I'm not going to be talking on each of them, even though I do work with a lot of different states. But you can kind of go onto your state's individual websites to kind of find some information. Or again, Sprint Tax, I believe, will do those state filings for you. So another reason to seek that out. And by the way, I don't get anything for suggesting Sprint Tax. I don't think Apex does either. This is just something to be able to help you out, because it is a lot easier to utilize that software. And another misconception out there is that au pairs are considered to be students, but that's not the case from an immigration and income tax perspective. And what happens if you don't file? The IRS can, they'll send letters to where they think you're at. They're going to try to collect from any accounts that they think you might have. And even probably the bigger thing is there potentially can be some visa type issues in the future. And so, we just want to try to do our best to comply with these rules, even if you might think it's not that big of a deal, because you never know what's going to happen in the future, and travel and tourist type arrangements and so on and so forth. So do your best to go ahead and report everything. This one gets a little confusing. You can tell an accountant wrote this because it's a lot of words and numbers that string together like a novel here. But there's also a form 8843, which essentially goes through and says, hey, if you were here long enough, we want to know why you're not a resident. And so this goes through and allows you to be able to explain your immigration status, what type of visa you're here on. At the end of the day, if you were here in the United States for more than 31 days during 2020, and more than 183 days, so essentially half a year for 2020, 2019, and 2018, and this is where the math gets complicated. but you only count 1/3 of the days from 2019 and the 1/6 of the days of 2018. I know that this mathematically it starts getting difficult there, but um, if you're here in the United States in 2020 for over 6 months, no matter how many days you're here in the years before, you're going to be filing that 8843, which again kind of it lets the IRS know how long you're here, what type of immigration status your visa you were here on. Here's some websites, and again, I think this is going to be online for everyone. But kind of the our reference materials that we're kind of covering tonight. But the IRS puts a publication out for specifically on au pairs, which is very useful. That's where I get a lot of my information from, is straight from the source at the IRS. And then the actual form, the 1040 NR, which stands for non-resident, the actual form is on the IRS's website, as well as the instructions for that form. I've included just the regular instructions, the 1040 instructions. That's like the tax return I file here as a citizen resident, solely because we're going to reference that to be able to look up how much tax you have on your income. Those tax tables are not in the non-resident filing instructions. And then finally, the Form 8843 to let that government know why you're here. Okay, so we have that was just kind of general basics, and now we're going to dive into kind of a sample tax return here, and see if we can make this help everyone out. And again, disclaimer, everyone's situation is different. Even though I'm going to show you some tax stuff here, it's not specific to you. I don't know your situation, and everyone's situation is different. So kind of our first thing to do is getting that social security number. And I know that this is very difficult right now. And there's probably some on this call that are in the process of still trying to obtain their social security number. With the pandemic, it is it makes it difficult working with the government right now, just to put it lightly. So stay patient on that. And I know that everyone at Apex is working hard to get that, but we do need to have a social security number before we file. If the next 2 months pass and we still don't have it, then I think there's some extensions that we can file and some of those types of things, just to be safe. But hopefully in the next 2 months, everyone has their social security number. And so the second part is that we need to figure out, well, how much income do you have during, again, we're talking about last year. Okay, so 2020, that's the return that we're going to be filing right now. And so we have to figure out how much income you had last year during 2020. And so you need to keep track of that. And I believe that you're generally getting paid kind of the same amount every week, is my understanding for the most part. For 95% of everyone, the gains paid the same amount every week. And so figure out how much you got paid during last year. And so the math I have here on the screen is, if 25 weeks, they getting paid a stipend of $277 a week, and so $69.25 is what I'm going to show a couple examples on here in a minute. But it's going to be different for everyone. Don't use this number, because this is just a made up number. It's not specific to anyone on this call, unless you were here exactly 25 weeks and got paid $277 a week. And okay, and so now we're going to fill out that form 1040 NR. And again, Sprint Tax will do this, but I think it's still, even if you're using software, I think it's helpful to understand what's kind of going on here. And so next thing we're going to fill out the form, figure out how much tax is owed, and then mail a check into the IRS. And so and I'll pull up a sample here, but I'm going to go through each of these items first, and then I'll show you the sample. So like any good form, we have to put our basic information on there. So we need to put our name, our social security number, and check the box for, even though I said single non-resident alien here, it's just single now. This is just single because it's just change of form, and I didn't catch that change until just a little bit ago. So you enter your basic information. The address is going to essentially be your best address, and that could be back home, or if you still have a ways to go, it can still be here in the United States, especially if your host family is going to forward mail and that type of stuff for you. But we're going to enter just our earnings again from that stipend amount. We're going to enter that on a few different lines here. And again, remember how I said that we no longer have the easy form, and there's a lot of lines you just don't use anymore. Okay, well you can see that we're jumping around from 1A to 9. That means we have a number of lines in between those that we're not using, and so on and so forth. And then we're also going to look up the tax that is owed on that income. So I'm going to pull over. Hopefully I can do this right. I think you should now be seeing the 1040 NR. Diane, maybe if you could shake your head for me if you're seeing that. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, excellent. And so I kind of put some red boxes here to highlight some items. So yes, I'm single, or if you're married, you can put that here. But I think everyone's going to be putting, most are going to be putting single. Or if you are married, then you go married here. Enter your name, address, social security number. You're going to be an individual filer. And then if you have any virtual currency, just be honest on this and check yes or no. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and that type of stuff. And so going back to our example, the 6,925, and when I'm saying, hey, enter it on these lines, you can kind of see here. So we're going to enter the stipend amount as our wages on line 1A. Okay, and then on line 9, it's if you look at the instructions, you're just adding lines 1A, B, 2B, so on and so forth. You just don't have any of the most. I don't think most people are going to have any investment income and capital gain income and that type of stuff. Again, I'm shooting to, there might be a few exceptions out there, but I'm shooting to hit the majority of it all. So again, that income amount 6925, line 1A, line 9, line 11. And this is, I'm skipping the math here, but subtract 10D from 9. Well, if 10D is 0, then we just keep carrying that down to where our taxable income is going to be our stipend amount on line 15. Okay, this is on page 2 now. So it's no longer an easy form, so it's a little bit longer, like I said. And now we have to look up how much tax we owe. Okay. So we went from $6,925. This is at a 10% tax rate, just to give you the math behind this. But the way you really want to do this is to look at the instructions to the 1040 form, and I put the the instructions here on, so you go to form 1040, and it's on page 65 of those instructions. I know this gets detailed. No one's going to remember this. That's why it's written down. But if you go to the instructions, you'll see these tables, of which only someone like me, an accountant, can look at this and go, what am I looking at? But effectively what this is saying is that, hey, if your income is between $6,900 and $6,950, and you're single, okay, you're going to pay $693 of that's your tax. Okay, so if you remember back, I said, hey, if you're going to save somewhere around 10 to 15%, this is exactly 10% of your income, of your stipend. So that's why I'm saying, hey, you save at least 10%. You can go a little bit more to be safe, especially if you're to cover maybe state tax and whatnot. But and again, this is in the instructions to the form 1040. Unfortunately, this table is not in the 1040 NR instructions. And so we're going to put that our tax $693, and so this is the amount that you're going to pay. This is if you had $6,925 of income, you're gonna owe $693 of income tax to the Internal Revenue Service. And so we're gonna put that tax amount on line 16, line 18, line 22. And again, if you can follow through on the math over here, just like I did, I'm trying to shortcut it for you a little bit. Sprint tax will shortcut it even more for you. And to where you have total tax again at 693. And guess what? You owe $693. So it's just a matter of putting it on each of the proper lines there. And again, we go through each of those on this step. That you can do the same thing by following along by reading each of those lines, or you can kind of do some shortcutting, especially if you're using an online software product. Which, by the way, I would, TurboTax is one of the biggest ones out there, but they are not always the best for non-resident alien filings. Whereas Sprint Tax, that's kind of what they're specialized in, which is why we're saying, hey, Sprint Tax might be a good option for folks. Okay, and then at the last step is to not forget to sign and date your tax return. I say the bottom of page 2 here. I just clicked by accident there, but it's actually on bottom of page 2 instead of page 1. So you're going to sign and date, and you can put your occupation here, your phone number, email address on it, and so that way they know that you're okay in sending this into them. And speaking of sending it in, here's the address that you're going to send it to. No matter where you're at, you're going to be sending it to the same place, to Charlotte, which is also in the instructions. To North Carolina. I think I remember seeing we had at least one person from North Carolina here, so it won't be a long distance mail for you. But for those of us out here in California, we're going west to East Coast. So, and you can pay your U.S. taxes with a personal check, which I know can be problematic sometimes. You can do it in a money order, which then you have to go to the bank. But you can also make a payment online onto the IRS's website. If you go to irs.gov, make a payment, and you should be able to make payment there also. Again, in U.S. dollars from a U.S. bank account, which again I know is sometimes problematic. Or you can have a host family. If your host family feels comfortable with it, they can write a payment, and you can work that payment arrangement out with them for you. Just being sure that it's being applied to your account by putting your Social Security number on that check. And if you do return home to before April 15th, it doesn't mean that you escape paying the tax because you weren't here on April 15th. It just means that you really should try to submit it to the IRS before you leave, just because it's a lot easier once you're back at home. It's off your mind and all that type of stuff. And so, do it before you leave if you're going to be going back home here in the next couple of months, which I know with the virus is may or may not be possible, kind of depending how things are going. But you can file it from back home also. You don't have to be in the United States to file it. It's just easier, I think, to file it while you're here, and it's on top of mind. So a couple kind of review things of what definitions. We are on a calendar year tax filing basis here, January 1 to December 31. The 1040 NR, that's the tax return form that we're going to fill out and file with the government. The IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service, that is our tax collection agency, for lack of a better term. So they're the ones that are responsible for accepting your tax filings, accepting payment of your taxes, and also contacting you if they think there's a problem with those. Your taxable income, that would include your stipend payments, the money that your host family pays to you, and that's what you're going to be reporting onto your tax filing each year. And tax day is April 15th for 2020. this year. Last year, it was extended until July. And so if we have some folks that may have been here during pandemic times, and so you may have heard, or I'm sorry, last summer's pandemic times, and you may have heard that it was in the middle of July, and 100% true it was, but then this year it's back to our normal April 15th. And from what I'm hearing, even though I would love it to be in July, it makes my life a little bit easier to have things kind of extended out a little bit. I'm hearing that they're going to keep it April 15th this year. And the tax return, even though a lot of folks say tax return and they think they're going to return something to me, meaning I'm going to get, the government's going to pay me money. It's actually going to go the opposite way for pretty much everyone on this call. But the tax return is the actual form that you're going to be sending to the IRS. If you're ever lucky enough to get money back, that would be called a tax refund. But as opposed to a return, because the return is the actual form. And we are going to put your stipend or amounts earned, we're going to treat those as wages on the tax filing. And so if you remember, I put your stipend amount on line 1A, which is titled wages, salaries, tips, etc. And that's what your wages, I'm sorry, what your stipend amounts are considered for tax purposes. And finally, the IRS website has a significant amount of resources available, and especially that au pair publication that they have. It's nice to have something specific to your situation. And obviously, if you have someone to help you with taxes, talk to them, or maybe your host family has a family tax person that can answer some quick questions for you, and reach out to them, and utilize those online resources also that are available to you. Here's a sample of a stipend payment form that you can use, and I believe this is provided to you. That essentially it just allows you to keep track of when did I work, how much did I get paid, so that way at the end of the year, the calendar year, you can add it all up and you know how much to report on your tax filing. And this is a voluntary tax system that we have in the United States, meaning that we voluntarily provide this information to the government, and we and we have our civic duty of paying our income taxes to keep our roads paved and all that type of stuff. And so, but it's up to all of us to keep track of what we get paid and report that on our tax filings. And I think that is all of my my presentation here. And so let me see if what my other pull this back up. I think I covered everything on the tax filing form. I know I talk really fast, and all this stuff makes 100% sense to me. But I know that it's confusing and first impression for everyone, a lot of folks on the call. So hopefully it makes a little bit of sense. The biggest thing, if you can take a couple of things away, is one, April 15th is our deadline. And so you need to report your income from 2020 by April 15th of this year, here in just under 2 months. And then the second thing is be prepared to pay 10 to 15% of what you got paid working for your host family in taxes. And that's kind of so if you're going through this and you got paid $7,000 and you're calculating that you owe $2,000, okay, there's probably you have a problem there. Okay, if you're calculating and saying, hey, I made 7,000, I owe 700, that sounds about right. So just kind of keep that in mind, because even though we think we have all these forms and everything to help us with everything, it's got to still pass the does this make sense test, and that's where I kind of give you that 10% to 15% range. So, Adriana, do we have any questions, or Diane, do we have questions?
I just want to say thank you, Tim. I think this is really helpful with all the lines you mentioned, the numbers. So, it's easier to follow. So this will be very helpful once you go through the whole form and know where to put what. And I know it's to everyone who's on the call, it's a little overwhelming to hear all of this, but once you get in it, we've done it for a few years, but with this, it's actually fairly simple, I'd say, because it's not many things to put into the form. And Tim, just for some questions, which I remember came last year, if you scroll up on that form, on that page, one question always came up right there. Go down again, a little further down. A question came up: wages, salary, and tips. When you put the 6,900, a lot of girls kept asking, "What is the W-2?" That was a question. I don't have that.
Yeah.
This was confusing because they don't have it.
Especially because it says attach your W-2 on that line. But everyone on this call, for the most part, you're not going to have a W-2. So a W-2 is something that an employer, when they're paying an employee in a non J1 visa type of a situation, just a regular employee, that's the form that the employer gives to the employee to report their wages. In your situation here, though, your host family doesn't give you a W-2 for the most part. Now, there might be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, they're paying you a stipend that is not reported on a W-2, and so you don't have anything to attach there. So even though, yes, it says attach form W-2 right here, plain as day, you don't have a W-2, so you have nothing to attach. For the most part here. So
thank you, Tim, for explaining. This was a lot of questions. I don't have that where I get that, and I kept saying you did, but it's confusing because it says,
it is.
Say if you have it, it's just attached. So that's good. That's good information. Another question is regarding the payments, Tim, which came up because we did have a lot of girls, of course, ending their program in 2020, going home. They all, of course, in Germany, they have to do this filing as well. They all get the information. When you said, I gave the same suggestions, go on the IRS website to pay. So just for the clarity of the process. So when you pay online with the debit or credit card, the option exists. You still have to mail in that form, form to the address, right? That's correct?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-step process. Yeah. So you have the actual filing of the tax return, so the 1040 NR that we're looking at on screen here. But then you have another process that if you're going to pay, and so let me see. And then payment, okay, is going to be a second step if you're not going to send in a check, especially because you're back home. And so the easiest thing to do is going to be to go online. And so you can go to irs.gov and then make a payment right here. And so it's kind of a two-step process, but don't just make a payment. Okay, you have to file the tax return also. So file the tax return, because that tells you how much to pay anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so then do the make a payment.
So when you mail in the form, what should everyone do first? Like go on the website and pay and then mail it in, or mail it in first? Or
yeah, if you mail it in, and then so let's say it's everyone goes because they're so excited about doing taxes that this evening that everyone goes and does their tax filings. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you mail it in tomorrow, you don't actually have to pay until April 15th.
Okay.
So just as long as you pay by April 15th, you're totally fine. So you can mail it in tomorrow and then wait until April 15th to pay.
Okay.
And
so you basically just send the form without a payment, and the IRS would just wait till April 15 and see if a payment comes through, correct?
That's correct. So you can mail in the form, and then you can make a payment by April 15th. Yep.
Sounds good. Perfect.
Or you can mail it in with the check right then and there too if you want to.
Yeah, I know, because it always comes up with the ones who are overseas, they can't send in checks. That question came a lot for everybody who's overseas home. They have to use the option to pay with a card. And then it gets confusing. Oh, do I still have to mail it? And I said, yes, mail it and do certified mail. So you have a proof of mailing. nowadays, especially with the pandemic, God knows how
No.
it takes. So
Yeah.
it's good to have.
Yeah, we try to do, mail is, we try to do everything electronically if we can.
Yeah.
In our office, whether that's payment or whether that's even filing, which, unless you're utilizing an online resource like Tax, you're probably not going to be electronically filing. So, another reason to use that resource. Plus, that resource will help you with your math. And I'm seeing a question about, where to find the, the tax calculation, which, again, an online service will help with that. But to answer the question, it's, it's here. It's the Form 1040 instructions, which, let me see here. It's also indicated here. It's the Form 1040 instructions, page 65. So it's not like you're just going to probably thumb through those instructions and find it. You're going to have to know where it's at. And so if you go to, and I'll kind of navigate there, but if you go to irs.gov, and you can see the forms and instructions, you can search for those forms and instructions. And if one of our our basic form is the Form 1040, so that's the most sought after form. And so if you go to the instructions here, instead of typing in or clicking on that link, it's going to populate an Adobe file. Okay, so it's in your downloads. Mine is up here on the right, and you're going to see the 111 pages of instructions for this Form 1040, and we're going to go to page 65. I'm going to see if I can try to, let's see here. Interest colony 60. Okay, I'm going to just scroll up to page 65. Okay, you start seeing these tables. Uh, hopefully we're all making more money someday, but we're not there right now. So, my example, page 65 is where it starts, and we find how much we're going to make, or how much we did make. And my example is just in between the 6,6950 and 6,950, and so that is where I got that number here, which again is roughly 10%. So again, if you have $6,900 of income, and you're doing the math and you're saying, oh, I owe $2,000, that's gonna be, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so you're doing something wrong. So I see someone asking, hey, tax will be over $3,000. That doesn't really make sense to me for someone that is here on a au pair type position, knowing what I know. Now, obviously, maybe have other income. I don't know. Could be some other unique situations. But the more that you do make, the more, that's why, at 15%, kind of, I'm saying 10 to 15, because the more you make, then it's going to go above 10% at some point, and whatnot. So if you're making $30,000 a year, it's not going to be 10%. So,
Yeah.
And
I
then
think I did the math. If you here a full year, and you have the 277 a week, you come up with 14,000 annually. If you were here to complete 2020 every calendar week, and then it's the 10%. So it's like it's 140. You shouldn't be, so with the 3,000, I'm not sure where the number comes from, but that's roughly, when you add it up to the 10%, what we talked about.
That's right. So 14,000, you're squeaking over 10%, but you're pretty much still there. Okay,
Yeah.
1486. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Thanks.
you're just a little bit over 10%, but you're not even at that 15. So if you save 15, you're gonna have a little bit of extra spending cash.
Yeah. Julia wanted to know, Julia, the stipend your host family pays for your college classes, that is not an income, because they pay.
I believe that's correct.
Right?
I think it's just your stipend. Stipend
that's your pocket money. This is for a class, which is a Department of State requirement. So this is not an income for you. You can basically spend. It's for your classwork.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we have the next question, Tim. We talked about it. What do I have to fill in when I don't have the Social Security number?
Yeah, boy. I know that Ariana, you're kind of helping a lot of the the ladies out with that. So if we were to, first of all, I would say, don't do anything yet. Okay, we have until April.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you were, if one of my clients had an au pair that I was helping them with, and they did not have a social security number, I would probably still be saying, even at April 15th, I would probably send in an extension, and I would just put in on the identifying number, for the social security number, on that extension, I would just hand write in applied for, and
Mhm.
and just wait until, hopefully, you have until October, and then once that you have that social security number, then you file. That's probably what I would be advising my clients to do. um, and and, and yeah, I mean, I know it's a
But it
tough
would be good to
situation.
try to get the number until a tax day, right? I mean, this is our
Yes,
identification number. That's what the IRS always wants to see. So, I mean, we still have 2 months left till tax day. If we can obtain that number for the ones who haven't, I know it's a little bit of a process with waiting times, and you have to get on a waiting list. But it would be good to get that accomplished. Yeah, to get
that's right. Yeah, and so let's see. I have a question on, um, for state filings, and is it the same? It's not the same. Every single state's going to be different, uh, and that's, I know that's frustrating. And so everyone that's in all these little squares, you're all in different states. It's going to be different everywhere. But I'll tell you that you're whatever, if you do owe any state tax, it will be less to the state than what you
Mm,
owe to the
yeah.
IRS.
Tim, I want
And
to explain it because I'm sure Louise. So what Tim explained, what you see, the 1040, that's federal taxes. So this is for the whole United States. That's
mhm,
same if you maybe Massachusetts, because you have a different structure right now. But if you live in California, North Carolina, New York, you all
mhm,
out that form. That is federal. That's for the whole United States. Then we also have individual state tax laws. You have to think about like Brandenburg tax, Saxon tax, Berlin tax. So then there is a different tax for each state. And what I guess from the experience we had in the past years, every state is different. There is states in the United States, and Tim, correct me if that changed. There were some states who do not charge basically
yep,
state tax the au pair program participants, but other states do. And my suggestion then always is, so you pay the 1040, the 10%, that's federal. And then you have to really locally inquire if the state of Delaware or the state of New York, for New York, I know with our participants also have to pay state taxes. They're not as high. It's usually a little less. It was usually a couple $100 if you were here a full year. However, it's still also tax obligation, but every state again is different. And my suggestion is locally to ask or use Sprint Tax. I myself don't touch taxes, Tim. I have an accountant. I don't want to touch it. I'm just not comfortable. So I always say, here's my stuff. So you know what? The Sprint Tax is a good place because then they take care of the tax needs. The fees are not that high. You have the coupon code, and then they will also advise you on the federal and your individual state. They have that knowledge because it also changes. It could have been that New York didn't tax them on the state level in 2017, but now they do. So Apex and Tim is not able to provide this information for all our states. There's so many. So
yeah,
that's a suggestion, Louise. So
Yeah, the
yeah.
great thing
And I
about
think,
Sprint oh, sorry, Tim.
I was just going to say that I think I saw a couple of people maybe from Florida, and Florida fortunately doesn't have a state income tax, and so that's good. Washington is the same thing, Washington State,
yeah,
and so it just depends. It's all across the board, and you may just have to, even if you're in a state that has tax, you may not have to file because you didn't make enough. But
right.
you have to
Yeah.
kind of figure that out. And again, Sprint Tax will help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was less, Tim, in previous years for the state level tax, because I just want to explain a word to our German crew here. Exemption. It's the German word is Freibetrag. I just want to translate it because exemption is maybe what I don't know all the way. Back a few years ago, we had an exemption on the federal taxes. So there was a part of your income stipend was not taxable, and anything above. That changed. That's what Tim was explaining before. And on the state level, A lot of states do have a Freibetrag still. That's why it's a lot less. So don't think that you have to pay this amount twice, or, you know, it usually was less. But again, that changes all the time in every state, you know, every year could be different. So my suggestion is always go to the sprint tax people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Good. Do we have any other questions? Guys can go ahead and type them in. Now's your chance.
Susan is joining here. Did you see Susan's? She's Susan. Hi, Susan. Ticket for the APEC Social Congress. Sicher. I don't know if Susan's still on the call right now. Yeah, so if you have any question, you know, just take your time. We're going to send out the recording, look at the form. And also, you know what, my suggestion is, if you're with a host family who has been with the program for years, they're usually very savvy. Ask them for help. A lot of them are gladly helping. They can look through the form with you. And they also sometimes have their own family accountants. You could ask that if the family uses an accountant for their family taxes. You know, there's help, you know, around. They can just go through the forms. I mean, we at Apex cannot give you tax advice. We can't fill out the forms for you. We can't tell you because we're not accountants. So that's why we refer you to the sprint tax people, to the pros. Like in Germany, you would go to a Steuerberater and not, you know, and not to a friend next door who's not an accountant. So that's always a good suggestion.
Yeah, and so I just put my contact information in the chat, also my email address. More than happy to respond to, you know, if you've got a quick question for me, or hey, does this make sense, type of thing. More than happy to respond on that. You know, for the actual tax, you know, preparing the tax returns, I would push you to sprint tax.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
because we do this stuff day and night. But you know, if you've got a question, you know, hey, I made, you know, I had, you know, $12,000 and saying I owe, you know, 3,000, that doesn't make sense. You know,
Yeah, it seems
probably,
like a lot. There seems to be a little error in there. Deborah was asking, that's correct, Deborah. If you arrived in March of 2020, you will count all your stipend from the day you arrived till December 31st. So you just, you know, add them up.
Yep.
Any part you were in the United States receiving stipend in 2020 is taxable income, even if it was just a week or if it was 5 months, 6 months. So you just count from your day of arrival, or from the time you were here in January and you returned home to Germany, let's say in June, then you count that time.
Yep.
Anytime, gerne, Deborah.
Okay, anything
Good.
else? All right, great. Well, I'm glad that I either confused everyone enough to where you don't even know what question to ask, or hopefully it makes a little bit of sense.
The question usually comes once people start looking at the form.
Yeah,
That's why I was
exactly.
trying to catch some questions from last year with the W-2. So I try to remember what questions I got last year.
Right.
So just, yeah, but thank you so much, Tim. This with the red boxes and the highlighting, it was really helpful, and the numbers of the lines that made it look
good.
easier. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, thanks for having me, and just a shout out to Diana, Adriana for doing this for everyone on the call, because I know it can be frustrating, and you know, being in a new country and not knowing how all this stuff works. So kudos to everyone at Apex for coordinating this.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.